We're diving into an ancient Roman myth today, but let me tell you, this is way more than just a simple hero's journey. At its core, this is a story about a conflict that's, well, it's timeless. It's that classic battle between our better angels and our worst demons, and it all kicks off with the theft of a single divine golden apple. So let's start with a big question, one we're probably still asking today. What really makes a hero? Is it just about pure strength? Or maybe unwavering sacrifice? Or could it sometimes just be about being in the right place at the right time? Well, for the ancient Romans, the answer to that question was pretty clear. Heroism, that was something forged in the middle of a crisis. And in the story we're looking at, that crisis started with just one stolen apple. But this single theft, it unleashed a divine calamity that was about to bring the entire city to its knees. All right, so let's dive into our first section, Rome's divine calamity. We're starting off in a city that is just completely gripped by chaos. And the source of all this, it traces all the way back to the queen of the heavens herself, the goddess Juno. Okay, so you have to understand, these weren't just any old apples. They were symbols of Juno's own divine power. So you can imagine, when one of them just vanished from her sacred grove, she took it very personally. And we're not talking a little bit angry. No, she unleashed her full divine fury right on the city of Rome. We're talking relentless storms, massive floods. The city was literally drowning in her wrath. And calamity, that is absolutely the right word for it. Just look at the definition here. A disastrous event causing great and often sudden damage or distress. This wasn't just a small problem. This was a full-blown disaster threatening the very survival of Rome itself. The people were getting desperate, praying for someone, anyone, to step up and be a hero. Which brings us to our second section, a hero's arduous quest. And that hero, his name is Lucius, and he's about to set off on a journey that seems, well, pretty much impossible. A quest to save his entire city. Now, his quest follows a pattern that you might actually recognize. It's the classic hero's journey, right? You've got the prophecy that kicks things off, then he's got to face temptation in this sacred grove, he's forced into a big final showdown, and then, if he pulls it off, he gets to make that triumphant return home. So in his desperation, Lucius goes to get some guidance from the famous prophet, the Sibyl. And what she tells him? It cuts right to the heart of the whole problem. She says it's not just about being strong. To have any chance of succeeding, the hero needs a very specific kind of moral courage, valor. And the goal? It's not just about getting an apple back. It's about restoring harmony to the entire world. And let's be really clear about what valor means in this context. It's so much more than just being brave. It's right here. Great courage in the face of danger. This is the kind of guts you need when you're not just up against some petty thief, but you're facing down the leftover rage of a very, very powerful goddess. This is also when the Sibyl reveals who the thief is, a nymph named Silva. And this just sets up the story's main conflict perfectly. Just look at this comparison. On one side, you've got Lucius, driven by valor, fighting for harmony for his community, and on the other side, Silva, driven by nothing but pure self-interest, avarice, and guile. And that first vice, avarice, that's what's fueling her entire motivation. It's that extreme greed for wealth or material gain. Think about it. She didn't steal that apple for some grand, complicated reason. She stole it just to have it. It's this bottomless, totally selfish desire, and she couldn't care less about the chaos it caused. Okay, so Lucius has his mission. But to find that apple, he has to go into the thief's own territory, the Grove of Temptation. And this place, it's specifically designed to test his character, to push his resolve right to the breaking point. And what's really interesting here is that Silva doesn't just attack him with force, at least not at first. Instead, she tries to corrupt him from the inside out. She uses all her cunning to tempt him with these incredible promises of wealth, power, opulence. She's basically asking him, hey, why be a hero for them when you could be a king, all for yourself? So her main weapon at this stage is guile. And we're not just talking about simple lying here. It's that sly or cunning intelligence, that treacherous cunning. She's weaving this beautiful, intricate web of illusions and false promises, all to try and trick him into turning his back on Rome for his own personal gain. But this is where we see Lucius's true character shine through. He just doesn't fall for it. He manages to resist her powerful allure, and he uses his own careful judgment to see straight through her illusions, spotting the dangerous traps she's laid out for him. So how does he do it? How does he beat her guile? Well, he uses another virtue, prudence. It's exactly what it says here, the quality of being cautious, careful judgment. So while Silva is busy appealing to his greed, Lucius is relying on his wisdom, his prudence, to find the real apple hidden in all those illusions and to navigate right past her traps. All right, so her temptations totally failed. And now Silva's cunning just boils over into pure, unfiltered rage. This brings us to section 4, confronting malice and hubris. This is the climax, folks, where virtue has to face vice in a direct and very deadly battle. With all her tricks used up, Silva's true, monstrous nature finally comes out. She morphs into a giant serpent, and her eyes are just blazing with malice, a pure desire to cause harm. The games are over. The deception is done. Now Lucius has to face the literal, physical embodiment of her rage. And to get through this, Valor alone isn't going to cut it. Now he needs fortitude. This is a totally different kind of strength. It's courage in pain or adversity. It's that mental and emotional toughness you need to just stand your ground when you're staring pure, hateful rage right in the face. This is it. This is the moment of truth. Lucius, armed with a shield that was blessed by Minerva, the goddess of wisdom herself, stands his ground. And when he shouts, "Your deception will not stop me," that's not just a challenge, it's a declaration. He's saying that his resolve, that truth, is more powerful than all her deception and rage combined. But in the end, you know what really defeats Silva? It's her own fatal flaw, hubris. It's that excessive pride or self-confidence that leads to a downfall. It's her arrogant belief that she was just unbeatable. And with one last, bold act of courage, Lucius grabs the apple, and her own pride becomes the very thing that brings her down. And just like that, the battle is won. Which brings us to our final section, a legacy of valor. Lucius returns to Rome, and he's not just carrying a golden apple, he's carrying a powerful lesson, one that's going to define his legacy for all time. You know, when you really boil it all down, this whole myth is like a moral equation, and it's laid out perfectly for us right here. Lucius's heroism is built on these key virtues: valor, prudence, fortitude, and together they all add up to rectitude, which is just moral integrity. And each one of these virtues is the perfect weapon against one of Silva's vices: her avarice, her guile, her malice, and finally, her hubris. So in the end, this ancient story is really a celebration of how integrity and wisdom can triumph over deception and greed, which I think leaves us with a pretty big question to chew on, a question that connects this myth right back to us. Think about it. In our world, right now, which of these qualities do you think gets rewarded more often?